How are you? My name is Michelle Connor. I'm your VCS for Living Environment. Today we're going to be looking at the Unit 8 performance task as well as how to digitally make a food web that you will need for the performance task for any students that are going to do it digitally. And then again, we could talk about how they can input an image if they rather draw it. So when you're in the lesson, you go down, you can click to open the Unit 8 performance task. Again, you're going to have to make a copy of this. So if we click on the performance task, you're going to also need the species survival plan packet. So you can go ahead and do that and also make a copy of it as well. So remember, once these are open, in order to edit them, use them, what we're going to need to do is go ahead and make a copy. So again, we do File, Make a Copy. You can name it and decide where it goes. Normally they just say copy of with a name on it, which you'll see here. And then you get to decide what folder you want to put it in. So we're going to go ahead and make a copy just so we have it. Now with the copy, you're able to start editing this version. And this is the version you can go ahead and give your students once you have access to it. So you'll notice all the links still are there. Your overall question, your group species that they're looking at, note catchers. We're going to go through this a little bit more in depth for each section, but this is just the start of it. And then you also have your species survival plan. And this contains the species that this group might be focused on, summary of the human impact, some data that's already found for them. They just have to go ahead and kind of like decipher it. Background and informational text, and then additional resources for anything that they want to look at. Again, it's always fine if they want to find their own information, but this is everything kind of in one place for them. So it's really important when you're introducing a performance task that you do it at the start of the unit, like the very first thing you do. This is really like a roadmap so the students understand what information they need to pick up as you're going through the unit, and also what the end expectation is. So a lot of times students go through lessons every day and don't really know like the overall general purpose. If you're doing performance tests, they're really great because it allows the students to understand exactly what's expected of them by the end of the unit. So for this one, there's usually an anchor phenomenon or these questions. So it says, how are human activities altering the physical and living environment? And is it possible to save species from extinctions? Now, there are multiple answers. There's no right or wrong answer to this. With the correct use of evidence, you can really go either way. So what we're going to be doing is they're going to be researching and reading, so collecting information. They're going to be pre-writing a species survival plan, peer review, and a draft, and then a final. So you're going to go ahead and put the students into groups, or you can give the students, if you want to do it individually, if you don't have enough students, or if you just know students work better separately, you can just assign each one of them a species, and those are going to be the species from the index. This way you have all the information from them. It could be interesting if more than one student has some of these, because they're going to have a different kind of take on how to save them, or what actions can be taken. So you're going to have these note catchers, which if you've done any of these before, the note catchers are really important because they allow students to kind of gather bits and pieces of information from daily lessons. So it's really important that your students understand that they're not expected to do all this in one day. It will not happen. And then what you have is each kind of section of information, the students will kind of go back to the performance task and fill out a separate piece until they're able to go ahead and work out their entire action plan. And then they'll have their peer review and their draft before they hand in their final copy. So the other thing I want to show you is the food web. So they are going to have to create a food web, and the best way to kind of do this would be to insert a drawing. So if we do insert drawing, I want to make sure just that my cursor's in the right spot. We'll do insert, drawing, new. The drawing is going to be the easiest way to do this. Now, although food webs, what we can kind of see sometimes is like the arrows kind of looping around. That's possible to do too, or you can have your students do like a more simple or straight arrowed version. So for instance, they would put, I'm just going to type out a really simple one. Maybe you might have grass at the bottom. Let's do grass and then seeds. Now, there's a couple different ways to do these arrows. If you look in here, there's an arrow line, there's a curve line, and a scribble line. It's up to you. I think it's probably easiest if you do like some really simple arrows. So what I like to do is I like to set the organism first. So I know one thing that eats grass. I might put, really common one, deer. So I like to put the organism in first and then go ahead and connect the arrows. So remember, we're going grass gives energy to the deer. Now, these can be maneuvered. It's totally fine. So you might have another one over here that eats seeds. Maybe you have a small bird. They love to give small birds on the regents. Set the organism and do the straight arrow. Arrow. You'll see the cursor pop up. Now, if you just click it, it'll give you an extra arrow. You're able to kind of turn it around. You can make it longer or shorter. Sometimes if I forget to unclick the arrows, I'll just go ahead and delete it just so I know. Then we have, let's just say, we have a snake. Snake eats the small bird. We'll click on our arrow. We'll notice our cursor pops up. We'll go here. And again, you'll notice if you click to the side, another arrow will pop up. Usually just delete it. Now, if the students wanted, if it gets a little bit more complicated, they can use the scribble feature. I think it just looks a little sloppy, and if they try and like start going around things, I think they're gonna lose the overall kind of cleanness of doing it this way. So one thing I would suggest is really just using the straight arrows. And one thing again, like I told you, is I really like to set the organisms first before I do the arrows. So then something like you might have a fox. Oops, don't scribble. So again, I'm going to set my fox. Now, I want to make sure I have my arrow. Maybe my snake eats my fox. My fox eats the snake. Fox eats the small bird. So you're going to start having some of them kind of loop together. And again, if you just click, another one will pop up. And then once they're done with this, they can go ahead and hit save and close. And it'll appear here. So again, that is the draw feature. So you have to make sure your cursor starts in the box. Insert, drawing, new. If they want to go ahead and edit this, let's just say they made a mistake or they want to go ahead and add more organisms, they could double click and it'll open this back up. Now, once it's made, they can go ahead and make it as big as small as they need to in order to fit it in the space. Now, if the student wanted to go ahead and simply just hand draw a food web, I would totally accept that in my class. I would refrain from having them find an image of one that's pre-made for their environment. And I would really ask them to create it physically because it gives them a little bit more practice and understanding with it. So if they wanted to hand draw it, they'd take a picture and send that picture to their email and save it on their computer. And then what they would do is they'd go ahead and they'd insert the image. So if they wanted to do it from their computer, they could do upload from computer. If they put it in their drive, they could put it in their drive. And then there's also a camera feature. Now, this is cool if the students have a cell phone or an iPad that they're using. They can simply take the picture and it'll import it directly there. Or what they can do is they can hold the food web in front of the webcam that's built into their laptops. and it'll simply snap the picture and then bring it directly into their work. So that's another really easy option. Some students much rather do stuff by hand. Other students do it digitally. It doesn't so really matter as long as they have the general concept of how to create a food web.